In March 2021, a single ship ran aground in a canal in Egypt, and within days, 12% of all global trade had stopped moving. 300 vessels sat waiting. Every hour of the blockage cost the world economy roughly $400 million. One ship, one canal, 100 miles of water connecting two seas. The Ever Given crisis lasted 6 days, but it reminded a world that had forgotten something important, that one of the most consequential engineering decisions in human history, made in the 19th century by men with shovels and dynamite, still quietly holds the modern global economy in its hands. The idea of connecting the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea is ancient, far older than the canal that finally achieved it. The pharaohs of Egypt understood the strategic and commercial logic of such a connection as early as 1850 BC. Evidence suggests that a canal of sorts, connecting the Nile to the Red Sea through a series of channels, existed and functions during certain periods of ancient Egyptian and Persian rule. Darius the Great of Persia reportedly completed a version of it around 500 BC, commemorating the achievement on stone stelae that survive to this day. But ancient canals silted up, fell into disrepair, and were abandoned. The desert reclaimed them. The idea never died, it simply waited. Napoleon Bonaparte, during his Egyptian campaign of 1798, ordered his engineers to survey the Isthmus of Suez and assess whether a direct sea-level canal was feasible. The survey came back with a catastrophic error. The engineers calculated incorrectly that the Red Sea sat roughly 10 meters higher than the Mediterranean, making a direct canal without locks impossible. The calculation was wrong, but it was trusted. Napoleon's canal never happened, and the idea was set aside for another half-century. It returned in the person of Ferdinand de Lesseps, a French diplomat with no engineering training whatsoever, but with extraordinary powers of persuasion and a personal connection to the Egyptian ruling family that proved more valuable than any technical qualification. De Lesseps secured a concession from Said Pasha, the Egyptian viceroy, in 1854 to build and operate a canal through the Isthmus of Suez. He formed the Suez Canal Company, raised capital from French investors and the Egyptian government, and launched one of the most ambitious infrastructure projects the 19th century had ever attempted. Britain opposed it furiously. The British government, under Prime Minister Palmerston, argued that the canal was technically impossible, financially reckless, and, most honestly, a direct threat to British commercial and strategic interests. Britain dominated the sea route around the Cape of Good Hope at the southern tip of Africa, the existing artery of trade between Europe and Asia. A canal through Suez would render that route obsolete and redistribute the power that controlling it conferred. Britain lobbied against the project at every stage and lost. Construction began in April 1859. What followed was 10 years of engineering on a scale Egypt had not seen since the pyramids, and achieved at a human cost that echoed them too. The initial labor force was drawn from Egyptian peasants conscripted through the corvée system, forced labor that de Lesseps and the Canal Company defended as traditional and necessary. The reality was grimmer. Workers labored in brutal desert heat with inadequate food, water, and medical care. Disease moved through the labor camps with devastating efficiency. Estimates of the death toll among Egyptian laborers range from tens of thousands upward. The exact figures were never carefully recorded because the lives of Egyptian laborers were not considered worth recording carefully. International pressure, particularly from Britain, eventually forced the abolition of forced labor in 1863. The Canal Company pivoted to mechanical dredging on a massive scale, importing steam-powered dredging machines from Europe that could move quantities of sand and earth no human workforce could match. The mechanization actually accelerated construction, and on November 17, 1869, the Suez Canal opened to navigation in a ceremony of extraordinary imperial pageantry. Empress Eugenie of France led a flotilla of ships through the completed waterway. Fireworks lit the desert sky. Giuseppe Verdi was commissioned to write an opera, Aida, for the occasion, though it premiered slightly late. The canal immediately transformed global trade with a speed and totality that even its most optimistic supporters had not fully anticipated. The voyage from London to Bombay shrank from roughly 24,000 kilometers around the Cape of Good Hope to 11,600 kilometers through Suez, cutting journey times nearly in half and slashing the cost of moving goods between Europe and Asia dramatically. British merchant shipping, which had opposed the canal's construction so vigorously, became its heaviest user almost immediately.
The irony was complete and entirely predictable. Britain's strategic response was swift. In 1875, the Egyptian government, financially desperate after years of ruinous debt, offered its 44% shareholding in the Suez Canal Company for sale. British Prime Minister Benjamin Disraeli moved with extraordinary speed, borrowing £4 million overnight from the Rothschild banking house without waiting for parliamentary approval and purchasing the shares before any other power could act. Britain became the canal's largest single shareholder and its effective political guardian. 7 years later, in 1882, Britain occupied Egypt militarily, officially to restore order during a nationalist uprising, but with the canal's security firmly in mind. Britain would not leave for 70 years. The canal's political history through the 20th century was as turbulent as its construction. Egyptian nationalism built steadily against British occupation through the first half of the century, crystallizing around the canal as the most visible symbol of foreign control over Egyptian sovereign territory. In 1952, a military coup overthrew the Egyptian monarchy. In 1956, President Gamal Abdel Nasser delivered one of the most consequential speeches in modern Middle Eastern history, announcing the nationalization of the Suez Canal Company and placing the canal under Egyptian state control. The revenues, he declared, would fund the Aswan High Dam and Egyptian development. The canal belonged to Egypt. Britain and France responded with military force, coordinating secretly with Israel in what became known as the Suez Crisis. Israeli forces invaded the Sinai. British and French forces followed, ostensibly to separate the combatants, but transparently to seize the canal. The military operation succeeded. The political operation collapsed entirely. The United States, furious at being excluded from its allies' planning and deeply concerned about Cold War optics, applied overwhelming economic pressure on Britain to withdraw. The Soviet Union issued stark warnings. Within weeks, British and French forces retreated in humiliation. The Suez Crisis ended British pretensions to independent great power status as decisively as any military defeat could have. Egypt kept the canal. Today, the Suez Canal handles roughly 12% of global trade, approximately 19,000 ships per year, carrying everything from crude oil to consumer electronics to grain. Egypt earns roughly $8 billion annually in canal transit fees, making it one of the country's most critical sources of foreign currency. The canal has been widened and deepened repeatedly since its opening, most recently in a major expansion completed in 2015 that added a parallel channel, allowing two-way traffic through sections previously limited to one direction. The Ever Given grounding of 2021 demonstrated with uncomfortable clarity how completely the modern global economy had organized itself around that ribbon of water in the Egyptian desert. 6 days of one ship sitting sideways in a canal built by forced labor in the 19th century nearly brought international shipping to its knees. Ferdinand de Lesseps, the diplomat who couldn't read a surveying report but somehow built the canal anyway, could not have imagined the world his ditch would help create. But the canal was never just an engineering achievement. It was always a political act. A line drawn through geography that immediately became a line drawn through power, sovereignty, and the question of who controls the arteries through which the modern world breathes. That question has never fully been settled. It has only changed hands. If this changed how you see the news the next time a ship runs aground, subscribe, because every week we trace the infrastructure and decisions that the modern world quietly depends on.